Is he under the bed? Where'd he go? You need to get out from under the bed.
아침부터 실랑이를 하는 엄마와 아들. 아들은 왜 침대 밑에 숨은 걸까요?
Nicholas, this isn't funny anymore. All right? We had 3 meetings with his teachers in like the first 2 weeks. I had multiple emails because he was acting out and he was not following directions. Got it, Nick? Mm-hmm. So looks like you need to brush your hair. His teacher is clearly frustrated. He must be getting reprimanded constantly. She's on there. Over there. And he'd come home saying he hated school and he was stupid.
학교에 적응하기 힘든 아이. 다큐는 니콜러스와 가족을 소개로 시작합니다.
Scott Kelly will begin a year-long stay in space. So good luck, Captain. We're proud of you.
I remember in the 2nd grade, my mother took me to my grandmother's to help me learn how to read. I remember after the 2nd session, my grandmother saying to my mom, you know, this kid is stupid and he will never learn how to read and I'm not doing this anymore.
We had 6 nominations and we won 3 already. We lost one of them, there's 2 more to go. I can't wait to perform.
There was a couple of teachers that were like, you need to focus better. You're always dazing off. Because I had like A's and C's and B's, but I had a lot of U's because of my hyperactivity.
My whole life I just thought, oh, well, I can't learn it or I'm no good at it. I mean, I must have been in summer school every single year from 12 to 18. Is she just stupid? Is she not trying hard enough? Is she not applying herself?
I never went to a therapist. Nobody ever talked about it. I was just this quirky, out of control kid with very few friends and social skills. But now I know why.
Like a chocolate chip cookie?
When I took the ACT, I got so low on the English portion that my counselor said, had you just answered C on every question, you would have scored higher.
Carter saved her best till last.
There is a new queen of the shot put.
You're slow, you're stupid, you're lazy. How come you just can't get it? I showed you 10 times. What's wrong with you?
Whole display of your own shoes. Are you used to that already?
No, I'm not used to it.
So how do you feel?
It feels great.
Because you're falling behind in class, your self-esteem goes down because you think you're dumb.
Grinds you down into thinking you're stupid. I'm stupid, I'm stupid, I'm stupid.
Can't sit still, disorganized, can't focus, lazy, stupid.
You can't make it. You never listen, you don't clean.
각종 분야에서 탑을 찍은 유명인들. 이분과 니콜러스의 공통점은 무엇일까요? 지금부터 The Distributors의 영화 리뷰를 시작합니다.
It's a super skill set. And fuck what people think.
It's fascinating, but when I started to research my book, I was stunned to see that ADHD was the #1 most searched term on the internet. And I mean, who would have figured that? I mean, I'm thinking, hey, you gotta be kidding, right? Where did that come from? Probably the easiest way to understand ADHD is to look at what it stands for. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder.
Oh, God, the name is awful. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. It's a terrible name.
You got a deficit, you got a disorder. Man, you're sick. You got problems.
The very name trivializes the nature of the disorder by selecting one of its most superficial symptoms as the name for the disorder.
I think that the public believes that ADHD is a made-up disorder for people who are lazy and trying to cover up. Skeptics would say ADHD is just an excuse for forgetting your keys. We all forget our keys.
I think part of the reason is because if you look at the symptoms of ADHD, all of them are things that are typical in everybody to some extent.
You get distracted, your mind wanders.
Losing things. Impulsivity.
They miss deadlines, they're always running behind.
Not sitting still.
Exquisitely sensitive to rejection.
Problems focusing.
Daydream.
Difficulties with inhibition.
Difficulty regulating their emotions. Interrupting.
Trouble organizing.
Problem solving, decision making. The list goes on and on.
많은 부모들은 아이가 충분히 동기부여가 된다면 아이가 잘 따라올 거라는 오해가 있습니다. 하지만 과연 그럴까요?
The fact is that it's not a matter of willpower. It's a matter of the dynamics of the chemistry of the brain.
I spend my every waking moment trying to get outside of my own head because it's a mess in there. It's very busy.
Imagine somebody sitting on the keys of the computer. That's what your brain is like. That's ADHD.
그럼 ADHD는 뭐가 다른 걸까?
20 years is a more specific understanding of the neurology behind it. An area in the brain that is somewhat different is the connection between the prefrontal cortex and the caudate, the area for emotional control and impulsivity.
So the cortex is responsible for thinking and problem solving, and underneath it are these structures that are part of these complicated loops. They take information from the cortex, bring it to the subcortex, and bring it back to the cortex. So this is a big relay loop where information is processed.
In ADHD, that relay system sort of short circuits, and so it's almost chaotic. Maybe a good way to think about it is if you were doing a really challenging physics worksheet and I'm blaring music into your ears, plus I'm making you listen to a lecture, plus I'm having you write some things, plus somebody's tapping on you. That's essentially what it feels like to the ADHD brain. They have every desire to just finish the worksheet, but they just cannot focus their attention enough to persist and stay on task.
ADHD diagnoses in the United States for school kids has increased by 43% in less than 10 years.
That number continues to rise every year.
It's an epidemic that we're talking about here? Well, it certainly feels like that.
ADHD is found in around 9% of American school children, and that makes it one of the most common diagnoses in childhood.
거의 10분의 1로 미국의 아동들은 ADHD 진단을 받습니다. 왜 유독 미국은 높을까요? 그 이유는 의학기술 발달과 관련이 있습니다. ADHD를 진단하는 데 점점 더 나은 도구와 정보가 있고 ADHD 정의가 예전보다는 더 명백해지고 ADHD에 대한 교육도 잘 되어 있기 때문입니다.
If we're looking at a disorder that affects 10% of the population, is that really a disorder or is that a variant of normal?
People interpret a rise in diagnosis and treatment as somehow we must be getting it wrong and we're overdiagnosing. And we just don't have evidence of that. If there was a rise in diagnosis of breast cancer, we'd be celebrating that because we'd be saying, yes, more women are doing self-exams and getting their examinations. And so a rise in the identification and treatment of people is actually good news.
Some of the most creative innovators of our time in the sciences, in music, in art, in business, turned out to have many of the symptoms of ADHD. And we benefit today from their discoveries, from their productions, and it's made us a richer society.
The core triad of symptoms are distractibility, impulsivity, and hyperactivity. But if you turn each one of those on its head, you get a positive. The flip side of distractibility is curiosity. What's that? What's that? What's that? If you didn't care, you wouldn't get distracted, but you want to, so we're driven by curiosity. The flip side of impulsivity. What is creativity? But impulsivity gone right. You don't plan to have a creative thought. You don't say, it's 2 o'clock, time for my creative idea, and lay it like an egg. No. New ideas, brilliant new insights come unbidden, spontaneously, impulsively. And then the third hyperactivity, you get to be my age, I'm 70 years old, it's called energy. You know, I'm really glad to have this little turbo pack on my back. So, you know, again, in keeping with the way I see it, it's a mixture of positives and negatives. Yes, distractibility, impulsivity, hyperactivity can be disruptive, can be an impediment, but their flip side are tremendous inborn assets.
I'm a risk taker, I'm creative, My mind is always moving. I'm always thinking of new ways to do business. And I think it really just gives me this drive and this edge.
And you just want to get them through it alive with their self-esteem intact, with their liking themselves.
1, 2, 1, 2, bam, 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 bam. The fact that I have all these things going on inside my head, I have an advantage that other people don't.
Sometimes I describe the superpower of having like 5 computers hooked up to one monitor. And so your brain is just constantly taking in information, processing data, spitting out things, like ready to go. So that's a huge superpower.
Hi. How are you? I'm Lisa.
Tommy Gunn.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
They are the ones who are willing to really push and take a chance and see it all the way through.
That was by far the most insane thing I've ever done in my life.
Entrepreneurship is a natural pathway for someone with ADHD because what people with ADHD crave more than anything else is freedom.
They think outside the box. They don't need to follow all the rules the way the rest of us do to get to the answer.
Teach you the bridge after this interview.
Please do.
Okay.
Because I can't figure it out.
No, it's not that hard. I'll teach it to you.
Their sweet spot is in flexible, creative, energetic,
Let's go, baby!
multitasking types of settings. And so oftentimes I see adults with ADHD are in really creative fields.
Everybody's doing a backflip, double, there it is! That's the bio, that's what they've been waiting for.
Around ADHD, there's tremendous ignorance. Most people are not aware of the positives that go with it.
You need to look and see whether the person with ADHD has anything that we could capitalize on, and then do what Michael Phelps' mother did and get those resources that turn that from an aptitude into a talent that sets you apart from other people. But you have to be careful not to extrapolate, because by saying that it's an advantage, it reduces the pressure on people to help them.
오늘 소개한 스테파니 소웨치티그 감독의 The Distributors 다큐는 2022년도에 개봉된 ADHD 다큐멘터리였습니다. ADHD가 있는 저는 동기부여와 ADHD에 대해 몰랐던 사실들을 알게 돼서 매우 재밌게 봤고요. 모든 ADHD 분들이 보면 좋을 것 같아서 소개를 했습니다. 다큐 뒤에서는 약물에 대한 이야기, 그리고 더 많은 정보들이 준비되어 있고요. 아직 한국에서는 개봉되지 않는 영화라 현재 제가 직접 번역 중에 있습니다. 1시간 반을 번역하는 데 시간이 좀 걸릴 것 같긴 해요. 준비가 되면 ADHD 디스코드 커뮤니티에 공유할 예정이니 관심이 있으신 분들은 위에 디스코드 링크를 통해 들어오시길 바랍니다. 그럼 우린 다른 거지 틀린 게 아니야. 안녕!